Welcome everybody, my name is EruptionFang, and in this video we are going to be talking about every semblance we currently know in RWBY so far, which is up to Volume 5. This is a bit of an updated video to the previous one I did a while back. In this video I'm going to be going a bit more in depth with each character semblance and discussing them. So let me give you the same spiel I did in the previous version, and we can start. To understand semblance, you must also understand aura, as the two go hand in hand. As explained by Pyrrha, aura is the manifestation of one's soul. It runs through every living creature and remnant. It's primarily used as a defense mechanism, allowing the user to take hits, that of which would normally be fatal. However, aura is also capable of being used in a different manner, semblance. Now, even though everyone may have an aura and if controlled a semblance, it doesn't mean we know what each character's is to their full extent. With that said, let's begin. Ruby Rose. Her semblance is speed. She can move at speeds much faster than the average person. She's mainly used her semblance to dodge attacks and get out of unfavorable situations. What currently seems to be an unusual side effect of her semblance is that she becomes rose petals. They begin to be left behind when she uses her semblance. Ruby even has the ability to split off into multiple sections. How exactly this works is unknown. Ruby is capable, however, of picking up other people and objects and moving them to her speed. There is a limit, as when she picked up Penny, she was almost too heavy for Ruby to effectively use her semblance. She was capable of doing it, however, it wasn't for a long time. Someone like Nora, Ruby can very easily pick up and move around with her speed. One of the negative or counters to Ruby's semblance is someone else's natural given speed. As we've seen, Mercury was capable of stopping Ruby when she was using her semblance. Even pro huntsmen are much too fast for Ruby, even with her speed. So while she may be fast, there are still natural fighters that are faster. Weiss and Winter Schnee. They have the hereditary semblance of the Schnee family, known as glyphs. These glyphs can be used in a wide variety of different ways. They can be used to exert push and pull forces, and she even has one called time dilation, which speeds up her actions. The Schnees also have another aspect to their glyphs, known as summoning. They can bring forth enemies they have previously defeated to fight by their side. They are capable of changing the scale in which the summon is brought forth. Winter has used miniature Nevermores, and Weiss had summoned a miniature knight. The summons are capable of growing once they have already emerged. One of the big benefits to the Schnee semblance is the ability to assist teammates with them. In Volume 2, she had boosted Blake using her time dilation glyph, allowing Blake to neutralize Roman's mech's attacks. There doesn't seem to be many negative aspects when it comes to the Schnee's semblance. How useful it is all determined by how skilled the Schnee is. Blake Belladonna's semblance is Shadow. She is capable of making a clone of herself which can take the hit for her. They appear to be solid, however are very easily dispelled if someone comes into contact with them. Blake is capable of using her dust to affect her clones and create an elemental shadow clone. If she uses fire dust, the clone will explode, earth dust will create a hard copy of herself, and ice dust does the same, only it's made of ice. These clones do not disappear when contact is made, as they now have an element that must actually be broken. Blake's shadow clone is a very useful semblance considering the amount of times she uses it. It very easily distracts an enemy, even if only for a second. Her clones are also capable of propelling her forward by either throwing her or just using the clone as a platform to jump from. The weakness to it is the fact that not many people seem to be thrown off by it when in battle. Her enemies usually seem to be aware of where she is even when they just attack the clone. But it is a very useful semblance that Blake definitely uses to her advantage. Yang Xiaolong. She doesn't have a cute little nickname when it comes to her semblance. Yang doesn't necessarily have the ability to absorb blows that are dealt to her, however she becomes stronger the more hits she does take. The longer a fight goes on, the stronger she becomes during it. When charged up, she can seemingly hit things 10 times harder than she could naturally. Her semblance, however, does have many weaknesses behind it. Yang's semblance primarily gets used when she becomes enraged. Anger is a very dangerous motivating factor because you no longer begin thinking with your head, you start thinking with your fists. This can cause Yang to act irrationally, which Adam took advantage of in Volume 3. Yang's semblance does give her the upper hand in a lot of scenarios, however it is equally as dangerous as it is useful if she doesn't control her anger. Jean Arc's semblance is aura manipulation. Jean has the ability to amplify his own aura as well as the aura of others. This does come at a cost, however, as to amplify someone else's aura, Jean must use his own to give. This is useful because aura is meant to help keep people alive, so if Jean is capable of transferring aura, he is capable of healing others so long as he has aura to give. While the usefulness of his aura is definitely on the helpful side, Jean's semblance is easily limited. Despite the fact that he has an unusually high amount of aura, there is not much he can do with it. He can defend himself as well as assist teammates. The offensive nature doesn't necessarily exist with Jean's semblance. He is primarily there to support others. Nora Valkyrie. She has the ability to channel electrical currents through her body, thus giving her a temporary power boost. The amount of electrical current that Nora can handle is seemingly unlimited. She was struck by lightning and wasn't phased, and when Hazel grabbed her, she became supercharged with how much electricity ran through her. The more electricity she absorbs, the stronger she'll get. It's a very useful semblance that doesn't seem to have many exploitations. However, it's a very situational semblance. She can't use it all the time unless a teammate has electric dust on them, or she can find a current to boost herself. If she can get to electricity, she can become incredibly powerful, but without it, she must rely on her innate training. Pyrrha Nikos. Her semblance was polarity. She could control the force of magnetism, allowing her to manipulate magnetic metals. There were even non-magnetic metals that she can manipulate, such as the aluminum cans during the food fight. People like Mercury had initially thought that Pyrrha had to come into contact with the metallic object for her to control them. However, that's not the case. She could control the objects whether or not she's physically made contact with them. Her semblance has little to no disadvantage, as it allowed her to use it for both an incredible offensive attack as well as an untouchable defense. If an opponent uses a weapon that isn't metallic, then it gives them an advantage over Pyrrha, such as Cinder since she uses weapons made of glass. Pyrrha's semblance was an incredibly useful one for a warrior like herself. Lyren. His semblance allows him to mask negative emotions. This makes him hard for Grimm to detect. The Grimm are attracted to negative emotions. If people are panicked or crying, Grimm will flood to that area and destroy and kill everything and everyone. Masking his emotions allows him to stealthily be undetected when out on his own. He is capable of transferring his semblance onto others, masking them as well. However, they seem to need to be in physical contact to do so. There is very clearly a negative side with his semblance, as he can only really effectively use this on Grimm. Masking his emotions when it comes to people won't do him any good, so unless he is hunting or being hunted by a Grimm, his semblance isn't the most useful. Sun Wukong. His semblance is nicknamed Via Sun. While very similar to Blake's semblance, Sun is capable of creating clones of himself. Instead of taking the hit for him, Sun's clones are fully capable of moving around and fighting for him. It does seem that his clones are capable of detonating upon impact if he wants. However, a caveat of him using his semblance is that he cannot move. Making clones can be advantageous if he needs to stop something heavy or pin someone down, as his clones provide more strength than he alone can muster. However, on top of him not being allowed to move, his semblance also rapidly depletes his aura. He isn't capable of keeping his clones out very long. His semblance has many disadvantages to it that can very easily be exploited if he uses them in the wrong scenario. But for a quick assistance buying a few extra seconds, it can get the job done. Velvet Scarlatina. Her semblance is mimicry. She has the ability to copy other people's movements and fighting styles. Her semblance is extremely complementary to her weapon. Velvet's weapon copies other huntsmen's weapons, but just because you have the weapon doesn't mean you know how to use it. When it comes to everyone, their weapon and their fighting style go hand in hand. There's no use in having Yang's gauntlets if you're not a brawler. If you were to give RWBY Ember Celica, that wouldn't make her a good fighter because RWBY still isn't skilled in hand-to-hand combat. So it would seem that Velvet, upon unlocking her semblance, had seen the benefits of copying other people's weapons as well as their movements. It doesn't seem as though it would work to her advantage on every character. Take for example Hazel. There wouldn't seem to be any benefit of copying his movements nor his weapon because he doesn't use a weapon. He relies on brute strength and being able to take blows. So if Velvet copied his movements, she's not as strong nor as durable as him. When it comes to skilled fighters in most scenarios, it's a fairly powerful semblance. Someone like Pyrrha or even Ozpin, she is capable of mimicking them. Even if only for a short period of time, that short time she is still fighting at an unbelievably high class level. We don't know how long the copying works for, as it would seem her weapons don't last very long. But even still, Velvet's semblance is one of the strongest ones in the series so far. Flint Cole. His semblance is called Killer Quartet. He can create 3 duplicates of himself, thus increasing his power 4 times as strong. Each version of himself mimics the movements of the last one, putting each of them on a small delay. He is capable of propelling teammates forward and assisting their movement speed. However, even with his semblance activated, it's not very powerful, as even Yang was capable of rushing straight through it. A big weakness seems to be that so long as the original copy is taken out, the rest will go as well. Flint Cole's semblance is definitely one of the weakest semblances in the show so far. Raven Bronwyn. She has the semblance of portals. She can make a portal to those she has created a bond with. These include her brother, Crow, former lover, Tai Yang, her own daughter, Yang, and she also presumably had one on Vernal. She can open these up at any time and travel to any one of these 3. It is currently unknown how many people exactly she can create a bond with at this time. The advantages Raven has with her semblance are plenty. If she had a bond with each member of Team Stark when they were still together, the team coordination could have been unbelievable, making portals between teammates, coordinating attacks, and using her teleportation to their advantage. Without her team, however, her semblance isn't nearly as helpful. They can pull her out of an unfavorable situation, but to use them practically in a fight, if she doesn't have a bond connected to anyone she's fighting with, her semblance isn't nearly as useful as it could be. Crow Bronwyn. His semblance is bad luck. He brings misfortune anywhere and everywhere he goes. His semblance is unbiased. It affects anyone he is around, which causes him to be a fairly distant person. At first, it seemed as though his semblance was passive and he had no control over it. However, according to Carrie Shawcross, one of the writers for the show, Crow does have some level of control over it and can amplify it if he wants. Amplifying his bad luck does drain his aura, but the random spikes of bad luck that he has seemingly does not. The disadvantage of his semblance is pretty obvious. While he can amplify it, he has no control over it and it can work to his detriment. Any teammates he may fight with are equally as in danger as the person or persons that they may be going against. It's because of these things Crow must be wary of who he's around and when. Neopolitan. She has the semblance of illusions. Neo can create physical illusions that everyone can see and interact with. These illusions, however, are not durable, as they shatter like glass if someone hits them. She has used her illusions plenty of times to disguise the way that she herself looks. She can change her attire, hair, and eye color if she so chooses. There are next to no disadvantages when it comes to her ability to create illusions. The distractions they create are so realistic that she and anyone else are easily given enough time to retreat or disorient the enemy. Unlike Blake's shadow clones where they are created where she once was, Neo's semblance seemingly allows her to place the illusions wherever she so desires. Her ability to teleport could also be linked to her illusions. She may not actually be teleporting, but just making her opponent believe that she's doing so they stop pursuing her as she escapes. Emerald Sustrai. Perception manipulation. Similar to Neo, Emerald is also capable of making people see things. However, as Neo's were hard copies that everyone could witness, Emerald's are mental that can only be seen by those who she is affecting. These creations are not real, so thus they cannot physically interact with them. However, they are incredibly useful to get the upper hand on an enemy. Emerald does have limits, however. 1 or 2 minds she can easily manipulate, but increase it any more and she takes on a toll herself. That is clearly a disadvantage because if ever she finds herself outnumbered, she can't affect everyone at once. She did increase her range during Volume 5, affecting everyone. However, she took a hard mental hit herself by doing so, rendering herself unconscious. Hazel Reinhardt. His semblance is pain suppression. His body negates all feeling of pain he may have. Doing this allows him to inject dust directly into his body without the overwhelming amounts of agony someone would feel without his semblance. Hazel's semblance, while useful on a minuscule scale, can be dangerous on a massive scale. Just because Hazel does not feel the pain doesn't mean he isn't getting harmed. Fatal wounds, damage to the internal and external parts of the body are still happening. If not for the abnormally fast rate in which his aura regenerates, his semblance might not be as useful as he uses it. So while he may not feel any damage to himself, it is still a very easy thing to exploit with Hazel. Adam Taurus. His semblance is called Moon Slice. Very similar to Yang's semblance, Adam's semblance also stores energy from attacks. Where Yang continuously adds the power gradually to herself, Adam stores all of the energy he's collected so he can use it all in a single attack. This attack is devastating as nothing yet has been able to come close to even stopping it. He sliced through a spider droid as well as cut through a fully aura'd Yang with no effort. A negative to his semblance could be that he must charge it through his sword, and if he can't get a charge, then he can't use the attack. However, Moonslice is so powerful of an offensive attack that if he can get it, it's the most powerful offensive semblance in the show so far. Glinda Goodwitch. She has the power of telekinesis. She can control and move objects around as she wishes. Pyrrha's semblance was very good for both offense and defense, however she was limited to metallic objects. Glinda is not limited by the material, only by how much she can move, which is a lot. Glinda also very heavily uses her semblance to attack and defend, but more times than not, she ends up being a glorified janitor cleaning up places and putting things back together. We've never seen Glinda have to go all out in a fight, but considering she is a pro huntsman, I'd imagine she'd be the professional version of what Pyrrha could have been. Her semblance is definitely on the stronger side of things considering that there isn't much of a weakness with her semblance alone. She's demonstrated how skilled she is at defense as well as offense. The only way to get around Glinda and her semblance would be to simply outclass her in a fight, be stronger, faster, and more versatile than she is. If there's no objects around to control, then she's without both her attack and defense. If I had to classify which semblances were the best, I would say Adam has the best offense just due to how much damage he's capable of putting out so easily. Glinda might have the best defense just due to how many things she's capable of controlling to protect herself. Jean is definitely the best support because without aura, you're not doing anything, and Jean can give others his aura. And the Shnees probably have the most versatile semblance with how many different things they can do. There are still plenty of characters in the world of Remnant with semblances that we haven't even seen yet. They're still learning, they're still students. Their semblances can still grow and change. So who knows what they might be capable of down the road.